The crystalline spires of Zorathian Prime sparkled like frozen flames under the light of 3 setting suns. In the grand observatory, Chief Astronomer Lyra Telvar adjusted her auxiliary sensory membranes, trying to convince herself that the readings were wrong. They weren't. The Kryvax war fleet had just emerged from hyperspace at the edge of their system, their massive ships blotting out entire star fields. The Zorathians had always been peaceful explorers, their civilization built on the foundations of art, science, and the pursuit of knowledge. Their bioorganic technology had transformed hostile worlds into gardens, their medical advances had cured diseases across a dozen species, and their astronomical charts had guided countless civilizations to the stars. But none of that would matter to the Kryvax Dominion. Lyra's primary heart constricted as she transmitted the data to the High Council. The Kryvax weren't interested in diplomacy or trade. They were conquerors who saw advanced technology as a threat to their dominance. Any civilization that refused to submit to their rule was systematically destroyed, their achievements erased from history. How many ships? First Speaker Zenra's holographic form materialized beside her, his usually luminescent scales dulled with concern. 217 capital ships, Lyra reported, her voice steady despite her fear. Conservative estimates suggest enough firepower to reduce our entire system to asteroid fields. Zenra closed all 4 of his eyes, a gesture of deep contemplation among their people. We knew this day might come. The Kryvax cannot tolerate any civilization that might one day challenge their technological supremacy. We could surrender, Lyra suggested, though the words felt like acid in her throat. Accept their dominance, preserve our people, and watch them destroy everything we've built. Use our technology to subjugate others. Zenra's scales flickered with determination. No, we are not warriors, but neither are we cowards. Prepare the quantum beacon. The quantum beacon was their greatest achievement and most carefully guarded secret. Originally designed to transmit astronomical data across vast distances, it could pierce through any known form of communication jamming. One transmission, one chance to reach someone who might help. As Lyra worked to calibrate the device, she watched the Kryvax fleet advance with mechanical precision. Their black ships moved like a swarm of hungry insects, methodically destroying the automated research stations that orbited the outer planets. Each explosion sent cascades of data across her instruments, final bursts of information from decades of scientific work. The beacon is ready, she announced, her auxiliary membranes quivering with emotion. But first Speaker, who would risk opposing the Kryvax? Every spacefaring race in our sector knows the price of defiance. Zenra's hologram moved closer to the observatory's main viewport, watching as another research station disappeared in a flash of light. There are rumors, he said softly, of a species from the rim of known space. They call themselves humans. The Kryvax avoid their territory, though no one knows why. Humans. Lyra had heard whispers of them in transmitted data fragments. A young species, barely a century into faster-than-light travel, yet already gaining a reputation for doing the unexpected. But they're so far away, and we know so little about them. Sometimes, Zenra's scales shifted to the deep blue of resolve. The unknown is our greatest hope. Send the message, Lyra. Send everything. Our scientific knowledge, our cultural database, our technological achievements. Let them see who we are, what we've accomplished, what will be lost if we fall. Lyra's membranes resonated in agreement as she prepared the transmission. Into the quantum beacon, she poured terabytes of data, atmospheric transformation protocols, genetic engineering breakthroughs, star charts of unexplored regions. But more than that, she included images of Zorathian cities, recordings of their songs, the collected stories of their people. Not just what they could do, but who they were. The message was simple. To any who can hear us, we are the Zorathians. Our civilization faces extinction at the hands of the Kryvax Dominion. We offer our knowledge, our friendship, and our eternal gratitude to any who would stand with us. Please, Help us preserve what we have built." As the quantum beam pierced the darkness between stars, Lyra watched the Kryvax fleet draw closer. They would arrive at Zorathian Prime in less than 3 planetary rotations. She didn't know if anyone would answer their call, if anyone could reach them in time. But as she studied the star charts one last time, her gaze was drawn to a small notation at the edge of known space. Human territory. Status. Unknown. Perhaps, she thought, the unknown was exactly what they needed. Admiral Helena Santos stood motionless before the holographic display in the Earth Defense Force Command Center, her weathered features illuminated by the swirling data streams of the Zorathian transmission. The quantum burst had arrived just hours ago, carrying within it not just a plea for help, but an entire civilization's legacy. Their technological achievements are remarkable. Dr. James Chen, the EDF's chief scientist, manipulated the holographic readouts with practiced precision. Their bioorganic engineering alone could revolutionize our terraforming projects. The medical applications would save billions of lives. If there are any Zorathians left alive to help us implement it, Santos replied, her voice tight with controlled anger. She'd seen this pattern before. Peaceful civilizations destroyed by those who mistook technological advancement for weakness. What's the status of the dreadnought? Captain Michael O'Connor's hologram flickered to life beside her. The EDS Titan is ready, Admiral. We completed our final systems check an hour ago. She's the most powerful ship humanity has ever built, but we haven't had time to run full combat trials. Santos nodded slowly. The Titan represented humanity's response to discovering they weren't alone in the galaxy. Nearly 2 kilometers long, powered by experimental dark matter reactors, and armed with weapons that pushed the boundaries of known physics. They'd built her hoping they'd never need to use her full capabilities. The Security Council is still debating. General Richards interjected from his position at the conference table. This would be our first direct military intervention in an alien conflict. The political ramifications will be irrelevant if we let another peaceful civilization be annihilated. Santos cut him off. She turned to the quantum communications specialist. How long would it take the Titan to reach Zorathian Prime? At maximum quantum drive output, 36 hours, the specialist replied. But Admiral, the Kryvax will reach their homeworld in less than 72. Even if we launch immediately, we'll be cutting it close. Santos finished. She studied the tactical projections, mind racing through scenarios, and will be significantly outnumbered. 217 to 1, O'Connor confirmed. Though if the Zorathian data on Kryvax ship capabilities is accurate, the Titan's advanced shielding and weaponry might help even the odds. Santos felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Humanity had been cautious since reaching the stars, building their strength quietly, avoiding major conflicts. But this moment felt different. The Zorathians hadn't just sent technical data. They'd shared their art, their music, their stories. They'd trusted humanity with their very essence. Dr. Chen. She turned to the scientist. How long would it take to integrate some of the Zorathian bioorganic principles into our existing systems? Chen's eyes widened as he caught her meaning. If we focus on their atmospheric manipulation technology, maybe 20 hours. But Admiral, adapting alien tech during combat conditions is exactly the kind of impossible task humans excel at. Santos finished. She straightened. Decision made. Captain O'Connor, prepare the Titan for immediate departure. Dr. Chen, you're going with them. I want every scientist who can contribute to this integration effort aboard within the hour. Admiral. Richard stood. I must formally object. The Security Council will have my resignation if they want it, Santos replied calmly. But first, they'll have to witness humanity standing by its principles. She turned to O'Connor's hologram. Captain, your orders are simple. Reach Zorathian Prime and protect its people by any means necessary. Show the galaxy that humanity rewards trust with action. O'Connor's hologram saluted. Understood, Admiral. And the Kryvax fleet. Santos' expression hardened. Show them why peaceful species shouldn't be underestimated. Dismissed. As the command center erupted into activity, Santos turned back to the holographic display showing the Zorathian transmission. Among the technical data and cultural archives, she noticed a simple artistic rendering, a Zorathian child looking up at the stars. Below it was a single line of text, translated by their computers. May knowledge light our way through darkness. It will, Santos whispered. And so will we. Aboard the EDS Titan, Captain O'Connor stood on his bridge, watching as the last of the scientific teams rushed aboard. The massive ship hummed with power, her quantum drive cores spinning up to full capacity. Her weapons, a combination of traditional kinetic accelerators and experimental phase cannons, stood ready. But it was the ship's newest features, her adaptive systems, and modular engineering, that might make the difference. All departments report ready, Commander Sarah Chen, his XO and Dr. Chen's daughter, announced. Science teams are setting up in the auxiliary labs. Engineering reports quantum drive at 100% capacity. O'Connor nodded, settling into his command chair. Helm, plot course for Zorathian Prime. Push the drive to its limits. Tactical, begin analyzing the Zorathian data on Kryvak's ship configurations. I want weakness assessments within 12 hours. As the massive dreadnought broke orbit, her dark matter reactors pulsing with barely contained power, O'Connor thought about the magnitude of what they were attempting. One ship against an armada, racing against time to save a civilization they'd never met. But that, he reflected as the Titan leaked into quantum space, was perhaps humanity's greatest strength. The willingness to attempt the impossible, not because it was easy, but because it was right. The EDS Titan burst from quantum space at the edge of the Zorathian system, her sensors immediately tracking the destruction left in the Kryvak's fleet's wake. Debris fields of shattered research stations and defense platforms traced a path of methodical devastation toward the gleaming homeworld. Status report, Captain O'Connor commanded, his voice steady despite the scene before them. Kryvak's fleet detected, Commander Chen reported, her hands dancing across the tactical display. They've established siege positions around Zorathian Prime. Their ground forces have already begun landing operations in the southern hemisphere. Dr. Chen emerged from his temporary lab station, his eyes bright with exhaustion and excitement. Captain, we've successfully integrated the Zorathian atmospheric manipulation principles into our shield matrix. The modifications are untested, but theoretically, theory will have to do. O'Connor interrupted, watching as more Kryvak ships descended toward the planet. Time to landing zones. 18 minutes until they reach the capital city, Chen answered. The Zorathians' remaining defensive systems won't hold them back for long. O'Connor studied the tactical display, mind racing through options. The Kryvak's fleet was arranged in a standard siege formation, heavy cruisers maintaining orbital superiority, while lighter vessels supported ground operations. They clearly weren't expecting significant resistance. Open a channel to the Zorathian High Council, he ordered, and prepare all weapon systems. Commander Chen, begin atmospheric calculations based on Dr. Chen's modifications. The holographic form of first speaker Zenray appeared, his scales flickering with a mix of hope and disbelief. You actually came. When we sent our message, we dared not hope. First speaker, O'Connor interrupted gently. I'm Captain Michael O'Connor of the Earth Defense Ship Titan. We received your transmission, and we're here to help. But I need information fast. What's the status of your atmospheric control systems? Still operational, Zenra replied quickly, understanding the urgency. But the Kryvaks have begun targeting our control nodes. We don't understand why. They're not military installations. No, O'Connor smiled grimly, but they're about to become them. Transmit control access to Dr. Chen's team. Commander, initiate Operation Thunderclap. The next few minutes were a symphony of coordinated action. As the Titan moved into position, her modified shields humming with newfound power, the Kryvaks finally seemed to notice the single human vessel approaching their fleet. "They're hailing us," communications reported. "Ignore it," O'Connor ordered. "They're not interested in talking." Dr. Chen, status. Integration complete. Zorathian atmospheric systems are responding to our commands. But Captain, what we're attempting could destabilize the entire. Sometimes you have to break the rules of engagement to write new ones. O'Connor cut in. "Execute on my mark." The Kryvax fleet was already moving to intercept, their black ships turning with mechanical precision to face this new threat. Their first volley of plasma torpedoes streaked across space, only to dissipate harmlessly against the Titan's modified shields. Mark. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The Titan's modified shield system, combined with the Zorathian atmospheric control network, created a cascading wave of precisely calculated pressure differentials in the upper atmosphere. The effect on the Kryvax landing forces was catastrophic. Their ships, designed for the vacuum of space and standard atmospheric conditions, suddenly found themselves caught in artificial storms of impossible intensity. Vessels tumbled out of formation as localized pressure waves crushed their hull integrity. The few that managed to maintain stability found their weapons suddenly firing wide, their targeting systems unable to compensate for the rapidly shifting atmospheric conditions. "Phase cannons, target their command and control ships," O'Connor ordered. "Fire as they cross the pressure boundaries." The Titan's experimental weapons spoke, each shot timed perfectly to strike when the Kryvax ships were most vulnerable. Vessels that had survived countless battles against conventional forces found their legendary shields useless against weapons that simply phased through them, materializing inside their hulls. "Kryvax ground forces are in full retreat," Commander Chen reported, unable to keep the satisfaction from her voice. "Their landing operations have been completely disrupted." But O'Connor knew this was just the beginning. The main Kryvax fleet was already moving to respond, their larger ships less affected by the atmospheric manipulation. "Begin Phase 2. Dr. Chen, redirect atmospheric control to these coordinates." As the battle unfolded, the Zorathians watched in amazement as a single human ship challenged the might of the Kryvax Dominion. They saw their own peaceful technology, designed to nurture and sustain life, transformed into a weapon that turned nature itself against their enemies. It was a display not just of military might, but of human ingenuity. The ability to see possibilities where others saw only limitations. Multiple Kryvax capital ships on intercept course, Tactical warned. Their energy readings suggest they're charging their main weapons. O'Connor straightened in his command chair. The real test was about to begin. "All hands, brace for combat maneuvers. Let's show them why humanity named our first dreadnought after the old gods." The Titan turned to face the oncoming Kryvax fleet, her dark matter reactors pulsing with power, her weapons primed. Above Zorathian Prime, the battle that would reshape galactic politics was about to enter its most crucial phase, and humanity's reputation would be forever defined by what happened next. The bridge of the Titan was eerily quiet in the aftermath of the first engagement. Holographic displays showed the retreating signatures of the Kryvax landing forces, while debris from their destroyed ships drifted through the artificially generated atmospheric storms, still swirling in Zorathian Prime's upper atmosphere. "Damage report," Captain O'Connor ordered, his voice hoarse from hours of issuing combat commands. "Hull integrity at 78%. Commander Chen responded, studying the scrolling diagnostic data. "Phase cannon arrays 2 and 4 are offline. Dr. Chen's modifications to the shield matrix are holding, but power consumption is higher than expected." O'Connor nodded, his eyes fixed on the tactical display where the main Kryvax fleet was regrouping. They had bloodied the enemy's nose, but the real fight was yet to come. What about the Zorathian surface? The Kryvax managed to destroy 3 atmospheric control nodes before we interrupted their landing operations, Dr. Chen reported from his station. But the Zorathians are already implementing repairs using some fascinating techniques. "Captain, their bioorganic technology is even more advanced than we initially thought." The holographic form of first speaker Zenra materialized on the bridge, his scales now shimmering with a mixture of colors that the ship's AI translated as indicating both gratitude and concern. "Captain O'Connor, what you've accomplished is beyond our wildest hopes. But the Kryvax, they're not known for retreating. They will return, and in greater numbers." "I know," O'Connor replied, rising from his command chair to face the Zorathian leader. "And we'll be ready for them. But first, I need to know everything about your bioorganic engineering capabilities. Not just the theoretical data you sent. I need to know what you can actually build, and how fast you can build it." Zenra's auxiliary membranes quivered with interest. "Our construction facilities are at your disposal, but what do you have in mind?" Instead of answering directly, O'Connor turned to Dr. Chen. "Doctor, tell me about your daughter's crazy idea." Commander Sarah Chen looked up sharply from her tactical station, while her father's eyes lit up with understanding. "The biomechanical integration protocol. But sir, it's completely experimental. We've never attempted to merge human and Zorathian technology on that scale." "The Kryvax have never seen anything like our phase cannons," O'Connor said, pacing the bridge. "But they're adapting. Those last few shots, their shields were already starting to generate multiphasic harmonics. We need something they can't adapt to because it's constantly adapting itself." Understanding dawned in Zenra's expression. "You want to use our bioorganic engineering to modify your weapon systems, create something that evolves during combat." "Not just the weapons," O'Connor replied. "Everything. Hull plating, shield generators, targeting systems, the whole ship." Dr. Chen's initial modifications proved we can integrate our technologies. Now we need to take it to the next level. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. As the Kryvax fleet gathered reinforcements, the Titan underwent a transformation. Zorathian engineers worked alongside human technicians, merging their biological constructs with the ship's mechanical systems. The result was something entirely new, a hybrid of human and Zorathian innovation. Commander Chen stood with her father in one of the auxiliary labs, watching through a microscope as the bioorganic materials bonded with a section of phase cannon housing. "The adaptation rate is incredible," she murmured. "The molecular structure is actually learning from each energy discharge." "It's more than that," Dr. Chen replied, his voice filled with wonder. "The Zorathian biomaterials aren't just adapting. They're anticipating. Each modification is a preparation for the next possible threat. It's like the ship is developing instincts." On the surface of Zorathian Prime, similar transformations were taking place. The remaining atmospheric control nodes were being reinforced with hybrid technology, while new defensive systems grew from the crystalline spires of the cities. The Zorathians, inspired by humanity's willingness to fight, were finally learning to turn their peaceful technologies toward defense. Captain O'Connor stood in the Titan's observation deck, watching the work proceed. Commander Chen joined him, offering a tablet with the latest status reports. "The Kryvax fleet has grown to over 300 ships," she reported quietly. "Long-range sensors detect more arriving through their FTL corridors. They're calling in everything they have." "Good," O'Connor replied, surprising her. "Let them come in force. Let them bring every ship, every weapon, every tactic they have. Because when we beat them, not if, when, the galaxy will know that peaceful doesn't mean powerless. That wisdom and innovation can triumph over brute force." "You really believe we can win?" Chen asked, watching as another section of the Titan's hull rippled with bioorganic modifications. "Look at what we've accomplished in just a few hours." O'Connor gestured to the changing ship around them. Humans and Zorathians, two species that had never met before today, working together to create something entirely new. That's what the Kryvax fear most. Not our weapons or our ships, but our ability to adapt, to cooperate, to evolve. An alert sounded throughout the ship. The Kryvax fleet was moving, their black ships forming up into attack formations that blotted out the stars. But this time, they faced something unprecedented. a human dreadnought enhanced by Zorathian biotechnology, crewed by two species united in purpose. All hands, O'Connor's voice rang through the ship's communications. Battle stations. Let's show the galaxy what humanity and its allies can do. The void around Zorathian Prime erupted with energy as the Kryvax fleet launched their massive assault. Hundreds of black ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons charging with enough power to reduce planets to ash. But they faced something unprecedented, a hybrid vessel that defied their understanding of what was possible. The EDS Titan hung in space, her hull now a shifting marvel of biomechanical engineering. Zorathian crystalline structures had merged with human alloys, creating armor that didn't just absorb damage, it learned from it. Phase cannons housed in living tissue pulsed with energy that adapted its frequency with each shot. Multiple Kryvax battle groups on attack vectors. Commander Chen reported, her hands steady on the tactical controls. They're trying to surround us. Captain O'Connor nodded, watching the enemy fleet's movements. The Titan's bridge itself had been transformed, bioorganic displays, merging with holographic readouts to provide unprecedented situational awareness. They still think in terms of conventional warfare. Show them why that's a mistake. Execute Pattern Omega. The Titan moved with impossible grace for a ship its size, its hybrid systems allowing it to react with near-organic reflexes. As the first wave of Kryvax weapons fire approached, the ship's modified shields didn't just block the attack. They absorbed the energy patterns, analyzed them, and adapted. Shield adaptation successful. Dr. Chen called out from his station. The biomatrix is already developing countermeasures for their next attack pattern. The battle that followed would reshape galactic warfare forever. The Kryvax, masters of overwhelming force, found themselves facing an opponent that evolved faster than they could adapt. Every tactic they employed was countered, every advantage nullified by the merger of human ingenuity and Zorathian biotechnology. Their flagship is altering course, Commander Chen announced. They're charging their main weapon array. Energy readings are off the scale. As expected, O'Connor replied calmly, Dr. Chen, initiate the final phase. Let's show them why you don't underestimate peaceful species. The Zorathian atmospheric control network, now enhanced with hybrid technology, sprang to life. But instead of manipulating air pressure, it began influencing something far more fundamental, the quantum field itself. The Zorathians' deep understanding of natural forces, combined with humanity's willingness to push boundaries, created something unprecedented. A wave of quantum distortion rippled out from Zorathian Prime, intersecting with the Titan's modified weapon systems. The ship's phase cannons fired, but what emerged wasn't just energy. It was a cascade of possibilities, each shot existing in multiple states simultaneously until it struck its target. Kryvax shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, proved useless against attacks that technically never existed until they hit. Ships began falling out of formation as their systems tried to defend against weapons that defied physical laws as they understood them. Message from the Kryvax flagship. Communications reported. They're requesting terms of surrender. A hush fell over the Titan's bridge. The Kryvax, who had terrorized peaceful civilizations for centuries, were standing down. First speaker Zenra's hologram appeared, his scales shimmering with colors of joy and disbelief. How do you wish to proceed, Captain? The Zorathian leader asked. O'Connor stood from his command chair, addressing both his crew and the Zorathian leader. We accept their surrender, but with conditions. The Kryvax will withdraw from all occupied territories. They will recognize the sovereignty of every civilization they threatened, and they will learn that true strength lies not in domination, but in cooperation. As the Kryvax fleet began their retreat, their once mighty armada now humbled by a single hybrid ship, the implications of what had happened began to spread across the galaxy. The message was clear. Peaceful did not mean powerless. Knowledge and cooperation could triumph over force and fear. In the years that followed, the alliance between humanity and the Zorathians transformed the galactic landscape. Their combined technologies created new possibilities for exploration, healing, and growth. The Titan, first of her kind, became a symbol of what could be achieved when different species worked together. On Zorathian Prime, a new monument was built, a massive crystalline structure showing two hands of different species joined together, reaching for the stars. Below it, in both human and Zorathian script, were written the words that would define a new era. In unity, we find strength. In peace, we forge power. In understanding, we build tomorrow. Captain O'Connor stood with Commander Chen and Dr. Chen on the Titan's observation deck, watching the sun rise over Zorathian Prime one last time before they began their journey home. The ship's hybrid systems hummed around them, a constant reminder of what they had achieved. "Do you think they understand?" Commander Chen asked quietly. "The Kryvax, I mean. Do you think they really understand what happened here?" "They will," O'Connor replied, watching as Zorathian ships moved peacefully through their space, no longer living in fear. "They'll learn what we proved today, that the greatest power in the universe isn't the ability to destroy. It's the courage to protect, the wisdom to learn, and the strength to reach out to those who are different from us." As the Titan prepared for its return journey to Earth, its crew knew they had done more than win a battle. They had shown the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons or technology, but in its ability to adapt, to cooperate, and to see possibility where others saw only conflict. The legacy of that day would echo through generations, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is the willingness to stand up for what's right, no matter the odds. And in the depths of space, countless species looked to the stars with new hope, knowing that somewhere out there, humanity and its allies stood ready to defend the light of civilization against the darkness of tyranny.